So superb. Good evening. Yeah. So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Sagar, for such a great context setting. So friends, we'll be starting with the session in next 5 to 10 minutes for sure. And just two, three things to keep in mind. First is we'll keep it conversational. And second is I won't, keep it boring for you for sure. And know that whatever we are learning, if we don't implement, then there is no use of learning. I have come to believe that after let's say 2 or 3 years, because I used to keep on learning different stuffs, but कभी implement नहीं किया तो I think उसका इतना जरूरत नहीं पड़ा. I think if we don't implement, then the learning is such a waste of a time. So what we will do is we'll have 30 minutes for understanding the concepts, and then for 20-25 minutes we'll apply that concept in our practical life. Okay, so that's the format of the session. So we'll make it theoretical as well as practical, because practical करने के पहले you need theory. Correct. And just to set the context right for the next 20-25 minutes, you need to understand the basics as well. Correct. So I'll just quickly introduce myself in next 1 or 2 minutes. So I have been working at Network FP, which is India's knowledge platform for financial advisors. And I personally manage a cohort-based course, which is a 6-month long online program, especially for financial advisors. And I've guided almost 500 plus candidates in their 6-month journey of their QPFP, which is the course that I manage. And know that we have expert trainers in the industry who easily manage 200 to 500 crores of clients' money. So know that whatever I'll be, teaching that to you, first of all, I have, taken content from my course, which is like super duper hit in the market, let me tell you. And second is I have put in all my learnings, which I have learned from these industry experts. So जो लोग ऐसे ये कुछ 40-50 क्लाइंट नहीं मैनेज करते, ये लोग ऑलमोस्ट 400-500 क्लाइंट्स मैनेज करते हैं, हु इजीली have a portfolio of 50 lakh rupees to 1 crore, and they have a AUM of 500 to let's say 200 to 500 crores on an average. So I have been lucky enough to be interacting with them from such a young age, and know that the best financial planning, or let's say the best personal finance strategy, is to avoid costly mistakes. Are you all able to grasp this concept, friends? The best strategy is avoiding costly mistakes, first of all. We don't want to earn, let's say, 12% or 14%. That is absolutely fine. But if you don't make costly mistakes, then you are halfway there. That is what I believe. So in this session, know that we will try and at least avoid costly mistakes. That I can make sure that for the next 4 weeks, I'll at least teach you that how you can avoid costly mistakes. After that, you have all the resources in the world, all the knowledge in the world, and we have a lot of good professionals as well who can help you out in the personal finance journey. Second is that हमने देखा होगा कि यार काफी लोग पैसा कमाते हैं, बट वो पैसा they lose on their bad investments. So first of all, we don't want to make bad investments. That's the first thing. Second is we want to create a strong base for our financial planning going forward. So next 4 weeks, we'll be focusing absolutely on basic, and let me set context very clearly that this is not a session where we will learn how to make quick money. If you're here just to make quick money, then sorry, you are at a wrong place. We are here to learn fundamentals of personal finance, which no one can change for next coming years, at least I feel. Right? So if you are planning to, let's say, यार मुझे साल का 24% 36% कैसे मिलेगा इस सेशंस में, तो this is not the right place. We are going to be learning absolute basics, which will set you up for your next career, or let's say next decade at least, right? So with this, Sagar, are we good to start with the session? Anything that you would want to add?
No, I just want
Superb.
to check
Yeah.
with everybody if anybody has any questions to begin with, or
Yes.
any expectations, anything to ask, anything to share.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. I think we're good to start.
Good to start. Super. So friends, what I'll do is, so I'll just share my screen, but I'll request if you can keep your questions after like a particular section. So we have 3 sections in the PPT. So once we complete the first section, if you have any question, you can ask the question after the section, because क्या होगा कि maybe your question might be answered in the following slides. So if you have any question, you can maybe ask after we complete one section, correct? So let us quickly start. We have 20-25 minutes just to set the context, and then we get started with the Excel sheet that we have for you, right? So today's topic is, again, friends, anything that we want to build, the strong foundation should be there. Because if you don't build the strong foundation, your building might collapse, right? So this is the topic for our first session, which is 4 pillars of personal finance and crafting your own personal budget. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, इफ यू डोंट नो योर बजट, हाउ कैन यू प्लान फॉर योर सेविंग्स? जब आपको पता ही नहीं कि आपका पैसा कहाँ जा रहा है, तो हाउ यू कैन प्लान फॉर योर फाइनेंसेस? सो दिस इज द टॉपिक फॉर टुडे, 4 pillars of personal finance, which is the foundation of personal finance, and how to craft your personal budget. Okay, then we have other topic as well, but that's a surprise for you all. But these two are the major topics for today. So this is what we will be learning in the next 4 weeks. So first week, we are learning about 4 pillars of personal finance and personal budget, right? Second week, we will be learning all about insurances, because once you have your budget in place, then comes the next step to have a good insurance, because if you don't have the insurance, your financial goals might collapse going forward, right? And then when we have a strong base of emergency funds and insurance in place, then we will go to financial goals. That what are our financial goals, and let's say how can we prioritize our financial goals, because we all have limited resources many of the time. So how can we allocate our money to the best of the bested financial goals, and how can we prioritize it? So week 3 में ये होगा. Week 4 में, when you have learned all about your financial goals, you should always know where you would want to invest for that particular goal. So वहां पे we will be learning about different asset classes and what is your risk profile. So know that not everyone is same when it comes to personal finance. This is same like health. Not one advice goes to each and everyone. So we need to be knowing our risk profile as well when we are investing our money. So this is the agenda for the next 4 weeks. Believe me, this is like, step by step process. We don't want to be going to asset classes क्या equity क्या होता है, debt क्या होता है. वहां पे भी आएंगे, but at the first place you need to set your basics right. That's my humble request. Even if, let's say, if you implement at least first 2 weeks का learning, your foundations would be set. Week 3 or 4 में काफी time लग सकता है. You need to prioritize your goals and stuff. So know that week 1 and 2 are equally important as week 3 and 4. Okay. So if you have understood this, can you please mention in the chat box that understood and waiting for next thing, something like that, just to get started. Or let's say bring it on, BIO. Super. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope that you will be awake for next 40-45 minutes, because many great things are coming on your way. So let's get started with the session. So yeah, this is the agenda for today, friends. So first is 4 pillars of personal finance. Then we will learn how to create an effective budget. And after that, we will also see how much emergency funds you need for your personal financial life. Okay. So know that if you don't have emergency funds, then again, your financial goals might go for a toss. So you need to be having your budget as well as your emergency funds in place. Okay. So as I mentioned, that personal finance is more personal than finance. So how many of you relate to this quote, friends? Personal finance is more personal than it is finance. And let me tell you that, so it will come in the following slides as well, that personal finance is nothing but 80% behavior and 20% finance. Any questions in here before we move on to the next slide? Do you all agree to this?
No questions, but 100% agree.
Super. So behavioral finance, personal finance is nothing but 80% behavior and 20% finance. So I'll ask you all one thing, if you can all type that in the chat box. How many of you have seen people who are earning decent amount, but at the end of the day, they mention that यार हम सेव ही नहीं कर पा रहे. आपको लगता है कि ये लोग सेव कैसे नहीं कर पा रहे यार? इतनी इनकी अच्छी सैलरी है, they are earning good amount of money, still they are not able to save, let's say 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 rupees. So what do you think is the reason, friends? I feel that the person who is earning 50,000 or 40,000, they are able to save 20-25%. मैंने बहुत लोग देखे हैं ऐसे. Suasa is mentioning 40 lakh package, no savings, no emergency fund, real friend. See, you are seeing the real life scenarios. Friends, can you imagine a person earning 40 lakh rupees and not able to save anything, and then not having emergency funds as well? यार मेरे तो 4 महीने के बाद ही मैंने emergency funds थोड़ा थोड़ा create कर दिया था at a very less salary. Credit card debt, that is absolutely great credit card debt. And do you know what is the rate of interest on your credit card debt? Just a quick trivia before we move on to next slide. किसी को पता है कितना होता है? 36%. Can you all imagine like what it is like just to pay 36% on your money? People taking a lot of loans as well as EMI. We will come to these points for sure. That's like a startup loan. Absolutely. So people have been, you know, thinking that they will save money at the end of the day, but know that your personal finance is more behavioral than finance. So we'll come to the happy money concept as well and how you can spend in a much better way. So I think that we can keep as a separate thing for altogether for the next slides. And so as we are mentioning about people taking credit card loan and taking personal loan just to buy iPhones, know that India's financial literacy is around 25%. People are literate enough, but people are not financially literate. And there's a big difference between being a literate and being a financially illiterate. And I'm assuming that these 27% also might know basics, but they might know advanced things that you'll be learning in 4 weeks. I am promising you, I have seen few courses, I have seen people know that even if you learn, let's say 50% of what we'll be learning in next 4 weeks, you will be in the top 5% of this category. I can promise you that. That's my promise from, that's Dipin's promise and Oopar's promise to you all. अगर आपने ये 4 वीक में से 50% भी सीख लिया, you'll be in top 5% category. I can bet you on that. Okay, so this is the financial literacy. Know that you will be in the top 5% in the next 4 weeks. So let's get started with the first week session. So first we understand about the 4 pillars of personal finance. Okay, so 4 pillars of personal finance में the pillars are very simple: income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. We are talking about income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. These are very basics, but know that if you don't know the basics, you cannot graduate to further. And let's say if you graduate to further things, अगर आपका फाउंडेशन ही सही नहीं होगा कि आपको अगर किसी ने एक क्रॉस क्वेश्चन कर लिया, so you would fumble. So that's the importance of knowing the basics. So we have 4 pillars: income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. And now let's see each and every category differently. So these are the incomes that we have, friends. Income are divided into many categories, starting with salary and your business income and inherited income. I wish that I had inherited income. And then we have gifts, royalty. Royalty is such a great thing to have. Rental, capital gains, and you have your interest income, dividend income, pension income. So these are the things that we that are considered as an income. And it is important to know from where your income is coming, because सब पे अलग-अलग tax लगता है. So know that from where your income is coming, because the tax rates are different on each and every income, right? So very setting up the basics, right? These are the different kinds of income. And this is very important. I'll tell you why expenses, though it looks simple, but I'll explain you why this is very important. Okay. So first is living expenses. Second is your lifestyle expenses. Okay. So living expenses are like basic expenses that we all have: rent, food, groceries, clothing, mobile, internet, conveyance, insurance, premium. Lifestyle expenses mein, there are, movie expenses, entertainment, donations, hobbies, club membership, not including Oopar club membership here for sure, but the elite clubs that we have outside, which easily cost lakhs of rupees. So these all comes in the lifestyle expenses. Definitely Oopar club ka to living expenses mein aata hai mere category mein to. So friends, why this is important is, how many of you feel that your living expenses remain constant, but your lifestyle expenses shoot up quite a lot once you start earning good money? Any idea, friends?
Yeah, I think as long as you're in the same city, your living expenses are kind of dependent on where you are staying, right?
Sure.
But yeah, lifestyle is variable. I think Mridul raised his hand. He wanted to say something.
Yeah. So I think lifestyle expenses like have shot up for me, like as my income went up
Absolutely.
over the last like whatever years. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that people from like say like lower middle class backgrounds, which they usually get into money, they have not experienced a lot of things. So there's a lot of aspirational aspect to their spending habits as well. And because they do not like they have been marketed everything, but they have had access to nothing. So they are not really sure about what gets them like what is valuable to them in terms of money. So which is why I remember myself like buying, and I still do it at some level, but I remember myself buying anything and everything based on just the fact that one, I can buy it, and the second one is I feel like without really understanding the need of it in my life, I feel like I can like it will add value.
Hmm. Correct. So that was my exact point, Mridul. I think when our income increases, the living expenses not increase, but our lifestyle expenses shoot up quite a lot. So it's always good to keep our lifestyle expenses in check, because I feel that's where we tend to overspend. और मेरी मम्मी एक चीज बोलती है, खाना किसी को कभी नहीं मारता, ऊपर के खर्चे मारते हैं. Meaning, living expenses are like basically almost the same if you have been living in one city, or let's say if you're living in Bangalore, Mumbai, it can easily be around 30-35,000. आपका rent constant रहेगा, food groceries constant रहेगा, clothing, schooling, medical and stuff, but your lifestyle expenses can shoot up a lot, because as Mridul mentioned, there are a lot of stuffs being marketed, and I think we are I think being bombarded with a lot of advertisements on Instagram, personalized ads and stuff, so we tend to overspend on things sometimes, right? So very important in expenses, that analyze where your majority of expenses are incurred. And we'll come to the resource part, where we specifically talk about how we can know where our living expenses are going and where our lifestyle expenses are going. So very important to know, friends. हमको ऐसा लगता है कि हमारा खर्चा 60,000 है, 70,000 है, बट उसको कभी आपने ब्रेकअप करके देखा है आपका लिविंग एक्सपेंसेस कितना है, आपका कितना लाइफस्टाइल एक्सपेंसेस है? Sometimes you will be shocked to know that your lifestyle expenses are more than your living expenses. As someone mentioned that a person who is earning 40 lakhs of income is not able to save. What do you think? Uska living expenses zyada hai, lifestyle expenses zyada hai? We all have a clear answer that absolutely it would be lifestyle expenses, because as we know, iska to koi ant nahi hai lifestyle expenses ka. So we need to be aware of where our money is going exactly. So let's say if you're spending 60,000 rupees, you need to know how much is your living expense, how much is your lifestyle expense. Friends, these are very important topics, important things, but many of you might not be knowing. So we'll be seeing that in detail in our resource. Okay. So next is assets. These are important assets that we have: stocks, properties, gold, PPF, which is Public Provident Fund, EPF, which is Employee Provident Fund, insurance policies, FD, RDs, and mutual funds. So these are considered as assets, and it's important to know, very important to know, that what kind of asset suits your financial goal. Okay, so I'll ask you one thing very quickly, and I know that we have a smart audience over here. How many of you would map FD to your retirement goal? You are 25, 30 today, and you will be retiring at 25. After 25 years, how many of you would map FD to your retirement goal? Anyone in the room who would like to map FD to their retirement goals? Okay. No? FD
If
has very
government,
less return for sure, Pooja.
if government increase the rate of interest, yeah, for sure. But the interest that we are paying
Absolutely.
now.
Same for me as guess. Yeah, same for me. No, I guess maybe a small part of it. Yes, I think 5-10% here and there we can definitely keep it for, let's say, liquidity and stuff. But I don't think anyone should ever park their retirement corpus in FDs, because so I'll teach you one other concept also, which is very interesting. How many of you know the inflation in India as of now? Rough figure. What's the inflation of India?
6%?
Around
8.
6%.
Yeah.
I think it's around 5.8 to 6%. 5.8 to 6% in December 2023. And what is the FD's interest rate? Not for senior citizens, but for us, which is people in 25, 30, the
So
normal
depending
adults.
upon the bank, you will get about like so newer banks
Average
6.5.
average 6.5. Okay, perfect. So inflation is 6.
I have
Yeah.
I have I have one more fundamental question, right? So we're talking about different assets, but just
Yes.
for all of us, right? What do you mean by asset, right? Like
Yeah.
to very much begin with, how, like, when we are trying to buy things, how do we know when something is an asset and something is a liability, right? How do we make that classification?
Absolutely. Good question. Asset क्या होता है? Liability क्या होता है? First of all, we'll see what is an asset. Any answers in the chat box? And then we'll come to the FD wala part, which I was asking. Assets make you money, liabilities cost you money. Very simple definition, right on point. Asset has a potential to create any kind of cash flow or income for you. That is like simplest definition that you can ever learn about assets. So अगर आप कोई भी asset देखेंगे यहाँ पे stocks, bonds, mutual funds, each and every asset can give you some kind of cash flow, or it can increase in their principal value. So let's say if you buy bonds आपको interest देगा over the period of time. FD and RD does the same thing. Insurance policies also give you some kind of return. Let's say if you pay 40,000 every year, you get some increased return on that. EPF stays the same. EPF पे आपको 8-8.5% मिलता है. PPF पे same 8.5% मिलता है. Gold पे मिलता है. So asset is nothing but which has a potential to create cash flow for you. It has a potential. It doesn't always create cash flow, but if we go technically, it has a potential to create good income or let's say cash flow for you. Correct? So yeah, so Sagar, does it answers your question? Super. Yeah. So friends, what I was talking about, inflation and FD ka interest rate is, know that you are earning on an average 6% and your inflation is 6%. Okay. So we are nil as of now. Cool. And let's say if you fall in 20% tax bracket, आप 6% में कितना interest भरोगे? Around 1.2%. So your effective return would be 4.8%. Very simple. So you are losing money while keeping your money in the FD. If you're parking for the retirement corpus, for sure. If you're parking for retirement corpus, for emergency funds, we can always park it in the FD because you need money in let's say, in next year or in next 2-3 days. So you should always park your money in safe instrument when it comes to emergency funds. So this is how we, talk about emergency funds and retirement funds. Yeah.
Dipin,
I think
so like the tax that you mentioned, that would depend on the type of FD, right? So if I do something like a tax saver FD,
Tax
which
saving. Yes,
which
correct,
will
correct. So
that
usually,
hmm.
I think there are tax saving FD as well for sure, which I think comes under ATC, but
Hmm.
that again has some pros and cons, but for sure, yes.
I think one takeaway is, like, not a lot of us think that way, right? You usually think what is the rate on return you are getting on an asset, but you do not kind of think that you also have to pay tax on
Correct,
whatever
That
interest
is
you
true.
go ahead
That
and
is
make,
true.
right? So you might think,
correct.
okay, inflation is at 6, FD is also giving me 6, so net I am equal, but you also have to pay a tax, right? Depending upon your
Absolutely.
income bracket on top of it.
Absolutely. So there are two kinds of return that we all should focus upon. First is the total returns that you get, and second is tax adjusted return. So we should consider tax adjusted return, boss. हमको total return से क्या मतलब है? 6% कमाया आपने, let's say if you come in 30% tax bracket, you are paying almost what 1.8% tax. So you are losing 2% of money every year if you are keeping that for long-term assets, right? So yeah, we come to liabilities part, friends. So these are kind of liabilities that we have: home loan, car loan, education loan, and personal loan and credit card. Important, very important. It's to know which is a good loan or a bad loan. So there are good loans as well. Any idea what is a good loan and what is a bad loan? Anything that you have. And next up, I'll show you what are good loans and bad loans. But have you heard of it earlier? Like आपको ऐसा पता भी था कि कुछ good loan करके भी चीज होती है, bad loan करके भी
I
चीज होती है?
have somewhat, I don't remember where, but I think I heard if you take a loan on home loan or an educational loan, it can be a good loan.
Absolutely, yes. Bang on, Pragya. We have good loans, which helps you create, or let's say, which has a potential to help you create more money, right? So, आपका home loan, which let's say if you buy a home, so आपका home prices would increase going forward, right? Let's say if you buy a home today at 50 lakh rupees and you will sell after, let's say, 15 years. So at least आप 1.25 crore में उसको बेच सकते हो. So that's a good loan that you have taken because it will increase over the period of time. Business loan again has a potential to help you earn more income. Student loan stays the same. So these are kind of few good loans that we have. It might turn to bad, but obviously these can be considered still as a good loan. But as we talked about credit card loans earlier, we talked about, car loans, EMI buying. Those are absolutely a big no from my end when it comes to, buying anything on EMI. Save your money for next, let's say 2-3 months, and then buy that product rather than buying it on EMI. जितना भी possible हो, try to buy it on cash, because क्या होता है ना कि now we have that option BNPL, buy now pay later, which is I think very a bad feature, I would say, because that tempts you to buy that thing instantly, but you need to pay that. यार कभी कभी किसी को क्या लगता है कि यार ईएमआई तो मैं भरता रहूंगा, बट स्टिल दैट्स योर मनी बॉस. आप अगर 1 लाख का आईफोन खरीद रहे हो जिसपे आप 18 महीने 5,000 7,000 का एक किस्त दे रहे हो, ईएमआई दे रहे हो, तो दैट इज ऑल्सो योर मनी. वो फ्री में नहीं आ रहा आईफोन. इट्स जस्ट दैट दे हैव मेड इट सो इजी फॉर यू that you buy it without even thinking the long term impacts of you buying that iPhone or anything that you might have not bought it if EMI was not there, right? So these are some good loans and bad loans, and I think we are done with the four pillars of personal finance. Any doubts in here, or anyone would like to share anything that when it comes to four pillars, and then we move on to personal budgeting. Is it a good idea to foreclose EMIs? I have a tool for that. Shashank, इसमें क्या होता है? So that's a separate concept altogether. But I'll teach you the basics as of now very quickly. So home loan में क्या होता है ना कि you pay the interest upfront in the initial years. So आपका 20 साल का लोन है तो आप 10 साल में ऑलमोस्ट 70% इंटरेस्ट भर देते हो, उसके बाद पूरा प्रिंसिपल ही होता है लास्ट के 10 साल. सो आइडियली इट इज नॉट सजेस्टेड टू पे अप द होम लोन, बट लोगों को वही लगता है कि यार इतना झमेला कौन लेके बैठे. तो इसीलिए द एवरेज एज ऑफ होम लोन विच इज ऑफ लेट्स से 20 year, people pay up in 10 or 11 years. My father took a 15-year loan, 15-year home loan, and he paid up in 4 years itself. So that's the average age of a home loan. People do buy it for 20 years, but people do tend to pay in 10 to 11 years for sure.
Dipin, so you said that the EMI, like in home loan, or even like I took a personal loan, and the breakup of that was also कि interest
Yes,
का component पहले high रहता है, and then
correct.
principal is red, and as you go along the term, you have like lower interest and higher principal. But when I'm foreclosing it, does it like अगर suppose मैं 3 साल में कर रहा हूँ, तो 3 साल में अगर मैं foreclose कर रहा हूँ, तो I have paid interest, right? So won't they
Yes.
adjust the interest against the net interest I would have to pay otherwise if I took the entire term of the loan? मतलब how does that work? I'm like I would want to know.
Sure. So if you have paid, let's say your loan is of 20 years and you have only paid your EMIs for 3 years, then still you have a chance to prepay the loan, because initial 7-8 years में ज़्यादा होता है. But when you come to 10th year, 11th year, 12th year, that's the time you might need to think that do you want to pay up a home loan instead, because you can maybe invest that money in SIPs and earn more returns. But that is again, यार वो personal choice है यार. किसी किसी को लगता है कि मुझे होम लोन नहीं चलाना इतना यार लंबा, और 8 साल में क्यों चलाऊं जब मेरे पास आज पैसा पड़ा है. तो दैट्स अ वेरी पर्सनल कॉल.
But जैसे अगर suppose मैंने interest जो दे दिया, that interest is gone, is what
हाँ,
you're saying.
दैट इज गॉन, दैट इज
मतलब वो
कंप्लीटली गॉन बॉस.
मतलब
वो
वो उसको
एडजस्ट नहीं होने वाला.
अच्छा ठीक है.
वो एडजस्ट
So
नहीं होगा.
basic idea basically, Dipin, is कि if I have not paid my complete interest and then I'm foreclosing, it makes sense. But if I already
Yes,
paid up interest, then it might not make sense to close it early, because then I can
yes,
actually use that money to invest it somewhere and get some returns on that.
absolutely. But again, as it is mentioned, many of the people do pay up early because they don't want to take the
Emotional idea
tension.
of debt. Yeah,
Emotional idea of
absolutely.
that. Absolutely. Yes.
Thompson, you also wanted to ask something.
Yeah, so just heads up that I might be more financially illiterate than anyone on the call, but so why is the interest being deducted from the EMI in the first 10 years? Is that a bank thing, government thing, or is it just it's a problem?
So I'll again try to maybe simplify it for you, but I think that's a technical topic together. So you have the time value of money. So आज अगर let's say if you have 100 rupees का नोट, 2 साल बाद वो 100 rupees का नोट नहीं रहेगा. That won't buy you 100 rupees of stuff that you are able to buy today. आज अगर आपको 100 रुपए में 10 चॉकलेट मिल रही है तो 2 साल के बाद इन्फ्लेशन के लिए you might get 100 रुपए में 8 चॉकलेट, correct?
Yeah.
So they want to recover their money as soon as possible and they want to keep principal with you. So if they get money earlier from you, क्योंकि उनकी इनकम तो इंटरेस्ट है ना, उनकी इनकम प्रिंसिपल नहीं है बैंक्स की. So the main income for the banks is not the principal amount but the interest. So they want to take interest as soon as possible and then they want you to keep on paying principal at the later stage of life because they have earned their income, which is their interest income. और जितना उनको जल्दी पैसा मिलेगा उतना उनको उसका वैल्यू ज्यादा होगा. I'm not sure if I'm able to, justify or let's say explain your topic in a simplified way. But जितना आपको जल्दी पैसा मिलता उतना आप उसको जल्दी इन्वेस्ट करके you can earn more returns on that. So it's always beneficial for banks to earn income ASAP and then give that loan to other people so that they are earning more income on that. अगर वो लोग equally distribute कर देंगे, so their income would be distributed for 20 years. So they want to earn their income first and then they want to, let you keep on paying principal for rest of the year. So that's the logic, time value of money का concept है. जितना जल्दी पैसा आया उतना उनके लिए अच्छा है या किसी के लिए भी अच्छा है.
Got it. I think that answers my question. Thanks.
Superb. So let's move on to budgeting, personal budgeting. Few quick tips that we all want to, keep in mind. So first of all, what is the importance of budgeting? So friends, let me ask you before we start with the budgeting, how many of you are maintaining your budget or how many of you know your budget? So please answer that because this is very important. And can you please keep a mind and can you please keep or let's say write the rough figures of your budget in your diary or pen or paper. That is absolutely fine. आप एक बार डायरी में लिख दो what is your budget. Let's say if you're spending 40,000, so like you are spending 40,000 every month because this would be very important in our activity that we'll be doing in next 20 minutes. I have a ballpark figure. Super. No, yes, maintain, no. Super. So we'll come to this, Mridul, that when you mentioned no, yes, maintain, no, for sure. Let's see. Rough budget, I make coin toss every day. Honestly, for me, pretty bad. No issues. So many of you are maintaining a budget for sure. So super friends, just write the budget that you are spending every month, and we will see कि अगर आपका सही में भी उतना खर्चा होता है या नहीं, and where you are spending most of your money on. So we talked about two things: living expenses and lifestyle expenses. Let's see where you are spending most of your money because that would be very important when it comes to making your budget. Yeah. So let's quickly move on to budget. So importance of budgeting ensures discipline in your financial habits. Very important. And I hope that you would have seen your parents maintaining a monthly budget or let's say, writing in some kind of a diary. My father still does that and he always has a rough idea of how much budget would be there for this month. So it always ensures a discipline in your financial habits. Second is promote awareness of your spending allocation. So as I mentioned, there are two things. You would definitely know where your money is going, where in the living expenses or your lifestyle expenses. Third is always it reduces the chance of exceeding your budget. So once you know your budget, then you will completely be conscious of ki, yaar, if I'm spending more on lifestyle expenses, I need to reduce on that. So the chances of you reducing the exceeding your budget significantly increases. And fourth and most important is facilitates the practice of saving money. So once you know your budget, then only you would be able to know how much you are able to save for your goals as such. Because if you don't know your budget, you will always keep thinking कि मैं कितने का SIP चालू करूं, 5,000 का करूं, 10,000 का करूं, 15,000 का करूं. So you need to have a ballpark figure in mind just to get started with your investing journey. And just to get started with your investing journey, you need to know your budget as well. Correct? So these are practical tips which I have followed from my end, and this won't be available in any of the things that you will read, but always keep a 5 to 10% of buffer when it comes to your personal budget, because sometimes things happen, sometimes you have other expenses which were not planned. So always keep a buffer of 5 to 10%. And it is not needed to update your budget and monthly. You can do it annually once in a while. That should be absolutely fine. जब आपका hike होता है, let's say if you're getting a hike every year in January or in April, you can maybe sit for this activity and then do it for annually rather than doing it monthly. Monthly is not possible, boss. I will tell you how you can do it once and you can follow this for the entire year, but more on that on the resource part. third, the objective is to understand the allocation of your expenses. So I've been speaking on this since last 3 slides. You need to know where your money is going, boss. ऐसा नहीं आपका 70,000 खर्चा हो रहा है तो हो रहा है, नहीं, आपको देखना पड़ेगा कहाँ पे हो रहा है, and you need to cut down on unnecessary expenses. And if necessary, you can always make corrective adjustment if you know your budget. And last is repeat this process on annual basis. That is absolutely fine if you don't do it monthly, but at least maybe you can do it half yearly, but not monthly. मेरे हिसाब से monthly it is not needed because your expenses almost stay fixed every 6 months, 6 to 9 months. So maybe you can do it half yearly or let's say annually as well. Annually will also be fine. And most important, I think we get lost in the news, but we don't focus on our personal budget. We try and focus on our national budget. Though national budget is important, friends, but first know your personal budget to become wealthy in the long run. Yeah. So, quick quiz for everyone. If you can all answer in the chat box, watching a movie in a theater is a lifestyle expense or not? Superb. So you have been getting the concept right. Now you need to break down every expenses, whether it is needed or not needed. Living expenses and lifestyle expenses. And can I cut it down? Yeah, superb. So answer is always a big yes. And is credit card a good loan or a bad loan? Superb. Superb. Shruti, you are mentioning good. Okay. Good for building credit? No, no, no. Credit card loan is not a good for building your credit. Using credit card effectively is a good way to build your credit score. Absolutely good if you pay back on time, and I would really urge everyone to have at least one credit card because that builds your credit score. And let me give you a very practical scenario. So let's say if you are using a credit card very judiciously, okay, very judiciously. So you will build your credit score over the period of time. And once you go out in the market and let's say if you buy a home and you want to opt for a home loan, you can easily save up to lakhs of rupees just by having a good credit score. Correct? So if your credit score is good, you get cheaper interest loans, which helps you save lakhs of rupees over the period of 20 years or let's say 25 years. So it's best to use credit cards very judiciously. Yes, Sagar.
One question, right? I think there are two major credit scores, right? But they differ a lot in terms
Yes.
of when you check it out. So which is the right credit score to check?
So I think there are 3: Sibyl, Experian, and 2 others as well. I'd written on this. So you can consider Sibyl score as a good score because that is, I think, the most widely followed when it comes
Can
to
I take
banks and
this,
stuff.
Dipin? Can I take this?
Yes,
So,
yes, please.
yeah, I was talking to my father once about this about the score. So most of the banking institutes like SBI, Bank of India and all, they use this civil score, right? But the private institution that we are seeing nowadays that are coming up like the app and all, right? They go with because civil score is very costly for them, right? So they go with Experian or something different, right? Because nowadays they are
Correct.
multiple competitor for civil. So it depends on financial institution, but majorly they use civil for the bigger institution.
Sibyl. Correct, correct. And everyone calculates your credit score based on different weightages. So you have 3-4 parameters from which they judge you. So Sibyl ka thoda sa it's conservative. And when you see, so I'll share my credit score. So my credit Sibyl is my 790, but my experience is 850 out of 900. So each and every credit score mechanism is different for each and every company. The most conservative is Sibyl, hence many of the institutions consider Sibyl. So if you want to, let's say, focus on only one credit score, it should be Sibyl. Yeah. Super. Emergency funds. Now, let me ask you all, how many of you have emergency funds in place? Now, I'll again repeat that thing. Okay. So let me see the answers first and then Pooja. Okay. Me, not yet. No. Started this month. Yes. Okay. Emergency funds is my salary, right? Being a founder is tough. Running a startup is even tough. Yes. Too many emergencies. Too many emergencies. Yes, Neha. Super. Saurabh, I can understand. Yes. Okay, cool. Now mention that in the chat box. I had mentioned that you have a ballpark figure in mind of your expenses, monthly expenses, right? किसके पास 3 महीने का emergency funds है? Your expense into 3. Your expenses, let's say they are 50,000 into 3. 2 months, me. Okay. Super. So I'm seeing quite a good positive answers. You guys have been, I have for 6 months as of now. Superb. So I'm only talking about emergency funds, not about your savings and financial goals के लिए जो आपने save किया है. Superb. No, absolutely fine. So friends, as I mentioned you that one thing will build on to the other. So once you know your personal budget, then only you would be able to know two things. First is your emergency fund. Second is your how much savings you have. So establishing a great personal budget and knowing your personal budget is very important when it comes to personal finance. And hence, this is the part of the first session. Okay. So what is an emergency fund? An emergency fund is a stash of money that you keep aside for financial surprises that life might throw your way. These events can be stressful and costly. Correct. So, how many of you have seen, people not having health insurance or let's say any kind of insurance, and then they, paid money from their savings or let's say emergency funds or from their other financial goals? Have you seen someone in your family, in your close family and friends, not having health insurance and then paying up from your, emergency funds and investments? Yes, we have all seen that. So I really hope that you guys don't make the same mistake. I need you all to create your emergency funds first, and then I would request everyone to please, you all to please buy a good health and life insurance policy and then move on to your financial goals. जल्दी नहीं है हमको financial goals के लिए. We have a lot of time. We are still, I think, young, 25, 30. We have 25 years for our investment, but I want you all to please keep your emergency funds and insurances at first place. Sagar, anything to add?
No, I was just saying, not just for health, right? I think for the last couple of years, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of my friends, right, who got laid off because of the market and everything. So I think it's not just for the health, but you never know
Oh, absolutely.
what might come up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So these are two major things for sure. And emergencies can be anything. It might be a job loss as well, or it can be any health related issue as well. So that's why health, I think emergency funds is very important when it comes to your personal finances. Yes, Ankit, you have anything to say?
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, right now I'm 30 and I have heard from people that the health insurance prices rise up with age. So is this still the a good time to take or am I like late?
The best time to take your insurance is today.
Nice.
Prices increase होते रहेंगे because what
Okay.
happens is it always increases with the age.
Yeah.
Your life insurance premium stays the same because they calculate your whatever they have their people who calculate your insurances. Health insurance increases over the period of time. Your life insurance premium remains the same.
Can I add something, Dipin?
Yes.
Yeah, so basically, Ankit, so there are brackets. So the health insurance companies, they have brackets. So for say ages between say 27 to 30, they will have a bracket for a certain set of parameters. The age no longer the age bracket will reduce. So as you keep going on and on, the brackets will become narrower and narrower. And then for every year that basically just think of it this way, that from 27 to 29, what are the changes that you experience in your body versus your if someone is elder in your family from 54 to 56, what are the changes that they will experience in their body? And that is
Yes.
how the health insurance companies will calculate your insurance premium.
Yes. So usually it is, as I think Ritul rightly mentioned, we have age brackets, 3 to 5 years usually. So let's say if you fall in 28 years age, so you will come under 26 to 30 ka age bracket. So your premium would remain constant for 3 years, 28, 29, 30. Then once you enter 31 to 35, your premium would change. I easily it changes to 8 to 10%, 12% in each and every bracket. But I think if you're 30 years, then you still have time. If you don't have anything, so you can go ahead and buy insurance. And we'll cover this in the next session. that how you can buy, let's say, 1 crore policy at such a cheaper price. We all have been seeing advertisements from Policy Bazaar and whatnot firms, but we'll practically see how you can buy a good insurance. So if you want to, let's say, wait for 1 more week, we have insurances right for you in the week too. Yeah.
Dipin, but recently I've heard that whatever premiums we pay, no, they do
Yeah.
expire after a certain period of time, right?
Yes. So your
For
premium is
health
usually for
insurances.
1 year. 1 year. You have to keep renewing your health insurance policy every year.
So recently, what happened? Like my mom had to go through a surgery, so it was like the end of the month. So we had to pay the premium again. What we had for the last year, it was expired. So
Okay.
at that time, my father was saying that it is like waste of money, kind of putting on this.
See, insurance companies are very smart. You need to have a good insurance advisor. Unless and until you don't have that, many insurance companies will try to loot you. Believe me. Insurance, I'll give you one practical example, friends, since we are talking about health insurance. My father underwent a bypass surgery 1.5 years back. I had a good insurance agent. We had taken the policy only 2 years back. Okay. And the hospital expenses were 3.2 lakh rupees. Company I check karne, because once you have a early claim, they come for the interrogation. Since I had a good advisor, obviously we had declared everything when we had bought the insurance policy. He had taken care of it because उन्होंने बोला मैंने HDFC Ergo में फोन कर दिया है, आपका बॉस हो जाएगा. Any which ways we have declared everything. The only thing is they might reject that policy or let's say claim. So you need to have a strong advisor as well, apart from having a good strong policy and a good company as well, which doesn't reject claim. Because there are many companies who will ask your each and every detail, but then at the end of the day they'll reject your claim based on false false things which you wouldn't have said, but still they'll declare deny your claim. So it's very important to have those things, and insurance companies are very tough to handle, seriously. But luckily, just to mention you, we got 99% of money from insurance companies. So 3.25 lakh was the expenses. We paid only 3,000 rupees from our pocket in that surgery. Lucky and touchwood, but I think you need to have three good things: a good policy, a good company, and a good advisor when it comes to health insurance.
Yeah, I think we'll take one quick question from Ankit, right? But I think, guys,
Yes.
insurance is something we'll be covering in details next week.
Next
right?
week.
We'll come back to it
Absolutely.
anyways.
And we can
Yeah.
talk about few policies as well. If yeah.
Asked
Yes.
related question only. If like I have a policy, like my organization provides a policy, health policy. So still, like what to do? Is it advised to take another one?
We'll come to this exact point in the next session. Believe me, this is a detailed topic that I would like to take in the next session, Ankit.
All right.
Very important topic that you have mentioned. Yes, there is a copay also. Copay meaning you have to pay, let's say 3 lakh में से 30,000 आपको भरना पड़ेगा. But usually you don't take that policies because you again have to pay some bits, right? So it's better to have a 0% copay policy where your company is giving all of your expenses. Okay, so this was it about emergency funds. So we'll quickly see what are important points when it comes to emergency funds. So maintain a reserve of at least 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, and always park your emergency funds in liquid mutual funds, savings account, or cash at home. Very important. And what's the purpose of emergency funds is to have funds maybe the next day or maybe next 2 days. If you have parked in your equity funds, अगर मार्केट कल गिर गया 10%, 20%, तो आपने जो 1 लाख सेव किया था वो आपको 80,000 मिलेगा परसों. So it's always advisable to have your emergency funds parked in safe instruments. Okay. And when I say bank account or savings account, I would request you all to please not keep that money in your primary account, but a separate bank account which you only keep it for emergency funds. अगर वो उसमें रहेगा तो पैसा खर्चा हो जाएगा. Very practical thing. You don't keep your emergency funds in your primary account. Keep it in some other bank account. I'm sure that you might have 2 or 3 accounts minimum. So keep that funds in separate bank account. Very simple thing. But people miss on this, and then they see कि मेरे account में तो 1 लाख पड़ा है, 1.5 लाख पड़ा है, and then they tend on overspending on different stuffs. Yeah. So very important. And then prioritize and the establishment of emergency funds before devising your financial strategy. So as I mentioned, if you focus only on your emergency funds and insurances for next 3 to 6 months, and after you start with your financial goals, you are starting very strong. Know that. And avoid using emergency funds as a replacement for your long-term investments. Another important thing, people tend to earn 4 or 5% more returns. उनको लगता है कि मेरा emergency funds तो सिर्फ 4% 5% कमा रहा है, and then I have potential to earn, let's say, 10 or 12% of returns. Because your emergency funds is not for earning returns, it is for your safety. So always remember that. And remember the purpose of emergency funds. So practical tips, again, this is from my end. First, save for your emergency funds and then start planning for your long-term goals. It's okay to start and save for your SIP after first to 6 to 9 months, and then start your first SIP. First, get your emergency fund sorted and never consider emergency funds as a part of your portfolio. Meaning, if you have a total portfolio of 5 lakhs and your emergency funds are of 1 lakh rupees, your portfolio is of only 4 lakhs. 1 लाख को कंसिडर ही मत करो आप अपने पोर्टफोलियो में. People again do these mistakes and then they tend to map emergency funds to one of their goals, and then they don't have emergency goals after 1 year or so. Next most important point, never think of earning more returns on your emergency funds. Remember the purpose. Always remember the purpose of each and every investment that you are making. Every investment has a purpose. Every fund has a purpose. Know the purpose. इसको return कमाना है या इसको आपको safety देना है. Correct? So a quick quiz for everyone. Is 1 month of emergency funds sufficient? Minimum 3. Absolutely. It should be minimum 3 for sure. But if you can go up to, let's say, 5 or 6 months, nothing better than that. Nothing better than that. Where should your emergency funds be parked? We are almost at the end of the session, and if you all can just participate. Separate account. Superb, superb. A new savings account. Superb. Low risk assets, liquid mutual funds, FDs, short term FDs, जिसमें आपको कल पैसा चाहिए तो कल भी मिल जाएगा. Right? Superb. Savings account, liquid mutual funds, or cash. And when I mean cash, it doesn't mean that having hard cash, but you can always keep that in the bank account, right? So, but after we have studied about personal finance, investment, long-term financial goals, I still believe that investment in the knowledge pays the best interest. So always keep investing in yourself. Always focus on your personal growth, because I have been a big believer of personal growth and personal finance together. Know that if you work on your personal growth, you will definitely have a good financial life as well, because if you don't invest in yourself, then why are you investing even in FDs that earn at least 6% returns, and you are the greatest project that you will ever work upon, right? So with this, we are done with the PPT, Sagar, and we'll start with that Excel file that we had. Anything that you would want to add?
No, I think it was wonderful. We'll just see if there are more questions or anything to share.
I have a question actually. So I parked my liquid funds in this, and I'm completely forgetting the name. It was this place where you get slightly higher interest and your money gets borrowed out to people. I just
P2P.
can't. P2P, something P2P. I can't remember the name.
Peer-to-peer
It,
lending.
yeah, it did give me some returns, but I'm not sure how safe it was.
It's not safe that much, Pragya. So even if you still have a chance to withdraw your whole money, maybe you can withdraw the whole part of it. It might give you better returns, but as I mentioned, know the purpose of your investments. That emergency fund is not there to help you earn more returns. आप 1 लाख पे कितना ही कमा लोगे यार, 12% और 4%. It's better to keep your money safe. जहाँ पे मोटा पैसा है वहां पे 2-3% में बहुत फर्क पड़ता है, बट जहाँ पे छोटा पैसा है वहां प्लीज रिटर्न्स मत देखिए.
Makes sense.
I think a couple of small things that work for me also, but just love to share is, one is, I think for expenses, try and automate whatever you can, right? So whatever are your fixed expenses, like your rent or anything that you can automate, right? Any subscriptions that you have taken for water or anything, just automate it so that once the salary comes, those expenses are automatically deducted. And then you see the remaining money in your bank, right? So you know what is it that you have to work from. That is something that worked pretty well for me. And I think the other thing, and Dipin can add better, but try to not complicate your systems too much, right? Try not to have 10 bank accounts. Try not to have 5 different apps that you use for different things. Try and keep a very, very simple system for yourself that is easy for you to track and easy for you to know where what is coming, right? I made that mistake initially where when I started investing, I was using 2, 3 brokers, different things for mutual funds, different things for this, different things for that. And then it's just difficult to even compile it all together, right? So keep your system as simple as possible.
I would also tell something like normally in my case, what I do, I have like when my salary comes in, I transfer majority of my part to different account and leave something that I'm gonna spend a month. So in the end, what it is gives like if I'm spending less this month, then give me like okay, I did something. Maybe how I did save or where did it go, where I spend less, or if it goes out, like I have to pull some money out of that account, then it gives me like a reminder that I have to analyze my expenses. Like why, where did I spend more? Something like that help me like simplify, no, not overlook if I don't want to go into details or something.
Good point. So we'll take 1 or 2 questions very quickly because we have that Excel also, which is important. Yes, Saurabh, please.
Yeah, I have one question. Right, this mistake I have done in my life, and this is like I started SIP, and I was not very much aware about emergency fund. Right, I know there is the emergency fund, and I was not very much aware. I started with SIPs in mutual fund. I started investing in stock market. Right, and when I realized that emergency fund is very much important for me, right. Until then, I already had a lot of means whatever salary. Suppose I was getting 50K or 60K, right? I was already means this is my personal expenses. I will keep separate, and SIPs was done, right? So what should I do at
Correct.
that? I should stop my SIPs and start collecting for the emergency fund, or what should be my strategy at that point?
I think, yes, for some month, maybe you can stop SIPs and focus on your emergency funds for, let's say, 2, 3 months. And then slowly and steadily, you can start building on emergency corpus as well. So even if you want to, let's say, do it together, 50% SIP mein kya, 50% emergency funds mein kya, but at least try to have emergency funds in next 6 to 9 months. Just keep that in mind, whatever strategy that you want to apply. But I would suggest if you can stop SIP for, let's say, 2, 3 months and only focus on emergency funds, that is also fine. Or let's say if you want to start SIP for majority, 50-70% of SIP only for emergency fund and 30% for your equity funds. That can also be done. But just have that, keep that in mind. You need to have your emergency fund. It's not, nothing is hard and fast. कि हमको आज के आज सब बंद करके emergency funds चाहिए. But always keep that in mind that you need to have emergency funds ASAP. You can deviate your SIPs into emergency funds basically for some parts, for some time. Yes, Asham.
So similar lines, because I had started an SIP back in April 21, April of 2021, and 2022 I got laid off. But at that point in time, right, because I was a lot more stressed about my liabilities and the loans that I was trying to pay off, which was bad loans that I had taken. I decided to pull out all the money I had invested in the SIP, and I think I got a negative return. Right. My question is, in such a case, actually, I didn't need to do that. If I look back at it, it was literally the worst thing that I could have done to my SIP. Might have just left it there; it would have grown by now. So, how do you evaluate when is a good time to pull out all the money that I've put in an SIP?
Very good question. So it's all about. So here the number games come. The number games come. Abhi, as I mentioned, and I think you guys rightly answered, the credit card loan that you take is around 36%. So it's always better to pay your credit card loan first and then start your SIPs because वो काफी महंगा लोन है. वहां पे आपको 36% भरना है. यहाँ पे आपको 12% ही मिल रहा है. तो पहले आप 36% को क्लोज करो, उसके बाद 12% पे आओ. So if you paid up your credit card loan, that's a wise decision that you had made. The unlucky part is that कि आपका portfolio भी उस time down था. I think the markets might be down, so that's why you wouldn't have gotten the return. But I think वही बात है. If you would have, let's say, got some good returns, then if you would have redeemed, so I think that's a very good strategy because apart from firstly having emergency funds, you should always close your bad loans as well, because you are earning 12-15% in your SIP and investments, but you have 36% loan boss. So it's better to pay 36% loan and then start your 12% SIP, 12-15, whatever is the return that you get. First, it's always better to pay off bad loans and then start with your financial goals. And then you start with zero. The only unlucky thing is, I think you got negative returns. That's why you uh, had a loss at both the places, SIP and emergent credit card loan.
Yeah, and I think one very, very quick addition, I think we'll talk more about it in week 3, Shashank. But if your question is when do you actually exit a fund or when do you actually exit from a particular war, right? I think whenever you're investing, usually we invest and think we'll let it fly. We'll see how much returns it gives. But sometimes it's good to have a target, right? Okay. Like when you're
Absolutely.
investing itself, have a predetermined target ki, okay, I expect this to give me this much returns, or I'm saving for this particular goal. And when I'll hit that, I'll exit, irrespective of whether there's a chance to make much more money and things like that, right? So probably having an exit idea right when you're investing is also might be a good idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Also, just
Otherwise,
to
we can
carry.
go for a 80-20 rule as well, right? Whenever we get those good returns, we can uh, leave out the 20% and we can
Correct.
withdraw the 80% as well.
Yes, so there are a lot of things in the third session that we are going to discuss about financial goals. So again, partial profit booking, a lot of stuff is going to be happening in third and fourth week since we'll be graduating to intermediate level, right? So Sagar, should we start with the tool because that is more important? So friends, I have shared the Excel tool in the chat box, the real statement. Please download that and say done in the chat box, so that we can start with this activity. So friends, we studied about 3 topics as of now, 4 pillars of personal finance. Second is personal budgeting. Third is emergency funds. ये तीनों चीजें we can implement in this tool, and I'll show you how. And believe me, people who knew their budget, their monthly budget that they're mentioned in the chat box, just mention after doing this activity, were you right or wrong? Because I was like way wrong when I estimated my budget and what were my real expenses. So that's why I mentioned you. Please mention your monthly budget that you have in mind. And let's do it practically right now in next 15 minutes. And let's have answers to your 3 questions, your monthly budget, your emergency funds, and what are your assets and liabilities. Are we all ready with this? And once you are ready, and you can mention VIO so that we can get started with the Excel sheet. Yeah. Hope you have downloaded and we are ready to start.
In case anybody missed it in the Zoom chat, I've also put it in the WhatsApp HQ. You can also get it from there.
Cool. Yeah. So friends, this is how your sheet will look like. And this goes by the name real statement. Okay. So let me give you some context on, what we are doing. Okay. So we have, as I mentioned that I have been managing one course where we give these tools to financial advisors whom we teach personal finance. Okay. So out of 40 tools, if you ask me which are those tools which are favorite of our candidates, it would be this real statement. And I'll speak about one testimonial which we obviously get from all the candidates and how this sheet helps their clients with their personal finances. Okay. So this sheet at the end of the day would tell you what is your current surplus and what has been your income and what has been your expenses. Okay. So I'll share one quick testimonial from one of the advisors. So एक advisor के पास एक client आया and he was a doctor. He mentioned that I want to start a 5,000 rupees SIP. Okay, very simple. He wanted to start a 5,000 rupees SIP. Then our candidate mentioned that, okay, boss, let's start with your 5,000 activity, but I would like to do this one activity with you. Are you ready with it? So he mentioned, yes, let's do that activity. So when they did this tool, when they mentioned all the income expenses, lifestyle expenses and stuff, you know what was the surplus that he had? 65,000. And he wanted to start an SIP of only 5,000. And he ended up having an SIP of 50,000. वो 5,000 की SIP स्टार्ट करवाने आए थे और उन्होंने 50,000 की SIP स्टार्ट करवाई फाइनेंशियल एडवाइजर से. So this is the impact and the importance of this tool. If you do this correct, let me tell you, some of you would have really, mind-blowing moments in the next 15 to 20 minutes, right? So hope you had written down your monthly budget and we will see if you are having it right or wrong. Okay. So let's do this together. Okay. So first up, we have income and we'll take one by one. So what is your salary? And you have to mention it annually. So as of now, just to give you some example, I'm mentioning rough figures here. So let's say my salary is 6 lakh rupees, which is 50,000 a month. So only for your income, you have to mention it annually, but for rest of the other expenses, we will mention monthly. Okay. So once you are done with your income, can you please say done in the chat box? And if you have any other income, you can always mention those other income as well. Let's say if you have investment income of dividend आता है, आपको interest आता है 10,000 का, rental income है. But I'm sure that many of you would be having salary income or let's say business income. So if you are done with this, can you mention done in the chat box? You have to mention your annual income. And if you don't mention an annual income, you won't get the right answer. You don't have to mention it here. You have to mention in the Excel sheet. Yeah. Everyone done with the income? Very simple. Salary income, annual bonus. So if you get a bonus also, please mention it here, friends. Many of you would be getting some good bonuses. So please mention your bonus also. So I'll mention very quick, 60,000, for example. Yeah. Super. And let's say if you are married, you can always mention your spouse's income as well. Okay, so as of now, I have only mentioned it for, let's say, myself. Yeah. And house rent and monthly expenses. So for this, we need to be mention the monthly amount, correct? So please mention your house rent if you are staying in a rented house. We are not considering EMI here. We are only considering the house rent. Okay. So if I talk about myself, we have our own house, so I don't have any house rent. Maintenance is, let's say, 1,500 rupees. Food, groceries and everything would cost around 15,000. Vehicle and would cost around, let's say, 4,000. Medicines and doctor 1,000. Electricity, water and AMCs would easily cost me 2,500 a month. Domestic help, again, 2,500 a month. Telephone, internet, again, 1,000 rupees. And subscription, again, cost me 1,000 rupees. Are we all done with this?
I think we can give a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any doubts, you can please ask that in the chat box. But it's very simple. You just need to mention the monthly amount and it will automatically get calculated for your annual expenses as well. And it will show according to your income how much percentage is your living expenses. And it's absolutely fine. 5-10% here and there should be fine. You can mention the, let's say, extra amount in others also. If you expect your expenses are, let's say, 30,000, you can mention 1,500 यहाँ पे, so that it is round figure. And you have considered something extra as well.
Yeah, just guys, because you are doing this for yourself, so be honest. Okay.
Yes.
If you're eating food worth 30,000, that's okay. But do mention that there, right? So just be as honest as you can so that you get the right picture, right? And if there's any of the line item that you don't know, for example, if you don't know how much you are spending in the food, it's okay. You can always come back to it and update it also, right? So it's okay to give a ballpark figure of what you are doing.
Correct. And this is very important. And these are living expenses that we talked about in the presentation. Living expenses, which stays the same almost for the entire year. I don't feel there is much changes in the living expenses. And once you are done with this, you can always mention done in the chat box. And friends, it might be a little bit of painful activity for you, but know that you will get to know a lot of things about you and where you're spending your money. And know that 90% of people don't know where they're spending their money. So if you want to be in that 10%, please do this activity. And be honest. As Sagar mentioned, be honest. Be completely transparent so that you get to know what is your final figure that we'll be talking about. Done. Okay, 2 people done. We'll wait for a few more dones in the chat box.
So guys, if you're thinking you'll not do it now and you'll do it later, there's a very high chance, knowing all of us, that you might procrastinate it later. So while everybody is doing it together on the call, you will be done with it in the next 10 minutes or 15 minutes, right? So it's best that you go ahead and do it alone.
Okay, so Shashank is getting to know my lifestyle expense is more than my ballpark budget. Superb. So we're getting to know the reality. Superb. So I think that's the aim of this sheet, Shashank, because just to be conscious of where we are spending and if you want to cut down wherever is possible. Good, good.
We
Absolutely
can
fine.
go ahead.
Yeah. So friends, hope we are done with this household expenses. Now let's move on to lifestyle expenses. Okay. So here, I think the lifestyle expenses change month on month and they are not constant. Okay. So what we can do is we can always mention the average amount that you are spending on clothes and accessories. So let's say if I buy clothes worth rupees 12,000 in a year, मैं 2-3 बार साल में शॉपिंग करता हूँ 5-6 हजार की एक बारी में कर लेता हूँ सो आई कैन मेंशन 1,000 रुपीज पर मंथ शॉपिंग एंड गिफ्ट्स लेट्स से किसी का शादी आया बर्थडे आया सो अगेन 1,000 मोर फॉर दैट आई एम जस्ट एस्टिमेटिंग वेरी rough numbers 1,000 rupees for my dining movies and sports personal care again 1,000 travel and annual vacations let's say if I spend 25 to 30,000 in a year so I can always mention 2,500 in a month fitness coach, again, I have nothing. Clubs and membership, obviously Oopar Club being one of them. So I pay almost what 500 rupees, 1,000 rupees. Professional courses, I again pay 1,000 rupees. Charity donation, I donate 1,000 rupees again. And 9,500 is my living expenses. So if you want to, let's say, have a rough figure, you can always mention that extra or some bit of extra amount in others so that you have the right amount. You're considering some extra amount as well. So you have your 11,000 ka lifestyle expenses. So this is how you calculate your lifestyle expenses. Done. So if you see, you would be easily be able to see how much you are spending on your lifestyle expenses as compared to your income. So 20% is your spending when it comes to your total income. Up 6.6 lakh में से 1.32 you are spending on lifestyle expenses. Sagar, I'll just come in a minute. And friends, meanwhile, you can complete the lifestyle expenses.
Yeah, sure. So which one is like the biggest budget or biggest lifestyle expense for most of us? Is it electronics, gadgets, dining, movies? Which line item is
For me, it's
most?
going up for
Travel.
dining.
Travel is the biggest.
Travel,
Yeah.
food.
I think for me it's a mix of dining and travel. Although I mean travel, it's a bit hard to calculate because I was like, will I go? Will I not go? What will happen? So that kind of a thing.
Mm.
For me also, it's
Dining,
dining.
dining, I feel like it is kind of sometimes hard to like allocate because sometimes when nowadays you don't always go out. Like when friends are coming over, you just order stuff in, right? And sometimes you end up counting that as food or dinner.
Yeah.
So, but that food is not does not usually cost the same as your normal. So if even if you're ordering daily, the food cost is higher than your general food cost.
Whatever I've ordered in, I've put it up in my dining expenses because I did not need to order it. I could have had the food at home.
What about others? Pooja mentioned clothing and electronics.
Mine is also electronics the most because it's a running EMI that's going on technically.
Oh, dining and movies, dining subscriptions. Okay.
So, Dipin, I have
Travel.
a question here.
Yes.
Like here, I had to buy a laptop back in June because my old one gave up. So again, against your advice here, I bought it in EMI because at the time I had no other mechanism. So would I count it in electronics or would I count it in the EMIs that come way below?
I think electronics. Electronics.
Electronics?
Hmm.
Perfect. I think we can go ahead, Dipin. Yeah.
Sure, super. So these were living expenses and lifestyle expenses. And let's say if you're contributing to your home as well, just considering that as an example, you can always mention your dependent expenses as well. Uh, let's say you contribute 5,000 to your family every month. So you can always mention 5,000 here. And any other siblings, relatives, if you have schooling of children. So you can always mention it. Yeah. Now insurance premiums. Okay. So insurance में we have two types of policies, term policy and that normal investment policy, जहाँ पे हमको पैसा देके कुछ सालों के बाद रिटर्न मिलता है. We are only talking about term insurance here. If you're paying term insurance premium, please mention it over here. Suppose you are paying annually 20,000, so you can always mention 1,600 around, and it will automatically get calculated. Same for your Mediclaim as well. If you're paying 18,000 per year, let's mention 1,500, and any car insurance that you are paying, again, you can mention 12,000, for example. Right? So we are only considering term insurance and not your investment policies, which gives you returns as well. So there's a difference to that, and we'll come to those policies later. Okay. Hope we are done with this. I'll just wait 30 seconds more here. And then we talk about loan EMIs. So if you have home loan EMIs, vehicle loan EMIs, other loan EMIs, you can directly mention it over here. Whatever loan EMIs you have. So I'll not consider anything here. And you can see your total expenses here that you have only 12% left, or you have spent 88% in your living, lifestyle, and insurance premiums. Okay. So after this, we go to savings directly. So as of now, you would be able to see your total income and your total savings. So you have the potential to save this much amount. So whatever is in your sheet, you have the potential to save this amount. Many people think that I have the more potential to save money, but this is, I think, the real numbers. The numbers are speaking for itself. You have 50,000, 55,000 income, and you have expenses worth of 48,600. So I have the potential to save 6,400. Correct? So my surplus for new investments. So let's say if you have an ongoing SIP of 2,000 rupees, for example, and you don't have any ongoing investments, which is in LIC, because you are smart enough to buy the term insurance policy. So your potential to save for new investments is nothing but 4,000 rupees. Do you all agree with this? Are you all getting to know the concept that we are talking about? आपका 2000 का पहले से ही SIP चल रहा था. The potential to save for new investments is 4,400, or let's say 4,000 rupees. How many of you are shocked to see this number? And if you can mention that in the chat box. Did you all expected the same budget for you, or is it like something really out of the world? Is it giving you the reality check, the real statement? It's a little over for me. That if it's little over, that is absolutely fine. But if it would have been much, then reality check I had. Yeah, my ballpark figure is off by 50%. Superb, superb. My over by 15%. That is still better, I would say. 15% is still better. But I think 50% is way more. But I'm glad you are, aware about it now. Superb. And then I'll, tell you my story one very quickly. So I had moved to Bombay 2 years back, and I had a ballpark figure in my mind, budget ka, that I'll, let's say spend this much amount. And I was not able to save the rest of the amount because of a lot of things, right? So I used to think, यार मेरा खर्चा बहुत ज्यादा हो रहा है या मैं save नहीं कर पा रहा. I used to think that way, I'm overspending. But when I had a real statement, or let's say reality check, my expenses were almost justified. Most of the expenses are going into living expenses. I was not overspending. It's just that I had underestimated my expenses. But जब मैंने ये Excel में सब डाला, then I got to know I was not way far. I had to cut down on few expenses just to save a bit more, but whatever I was saving, that was justified because I had a lot of living expenses, boss. I was underestimating my expenses, and that was my mistake. Over by 55%, Chetan. Good. Okay, so I think now you're getting the point. So surplus for new investment is this. But Chetan and Shashank, you might be thinking why you're not able to save. So now you have the answer. You don't have to regret that one because your expenses were high, right? And then you can always work on it and consciously reduce some of the expenses which are not needed for sure. Right. And if you want to increase the savings, correct? So friends, are we all good with this? And did it add value to your today's personal finance journey? This number, this was the number that we were working, or let's say, understanding this. We wanted to understand this number, but to understand that we had to cover the basics. So this is very important, correct?
Dipin, I have one
Actually,
question. So, inputting, when we are spending the money, right? Right. For me, like this is the first time or like one of the few times that I'm writing down something that I spent. So a big part of tracking is also like noting or like logging somewhere where you have what you are spending and where you are spending. That usually does not like that is not a habit for me, right? So
Correct.
is there some tool or a vehicle which can help me at least track like so that on top of that I can build some like mechanisms to say that okay, like if it my spend expenses cross say 50,000 this month, I
Hmm.
get an alert or something from my own, like something that I built, which tells me that, okay, boss, this month you've already spent 50,000. Because usually I realize at the end of the month that,
Hmm.
oh God, this month I've spent, I only have, say, 20,000 left.
Hmm. Correct. So, Mehul, sorry, Mritul. So, Mritul, the only thing is, now again, I'll come to that point where I mentioned that you can do it annually. Okay. So, I'll just take a rough figure because I'll just increase my income here because since it is a bit unrealistic, let me just do it 8 lakh rupees. Now you have a good surplus to invest, right? 20,000 is a good surplus to invest. Okay. Abhi, let's say if you're doing it after your salary hike or whatever hike you have got. आपकी इनकम है 8.6 lakh rupees. You start an SIP of 24,000 and then spend whatever it is. So you fix a savings amount rather than focusing on your expenses. So it's the other way around. समझ आया मैं क्या बोला?
Got it.
So see, I'm just trying to make your life easy, mentioning that ki if you try and track your expenses every month, it would be too difficult for you, and you might not do it every month. And even I have not done it. So what I know is I know my income, I know my expenses, living expenses, lifestyle expenses. मुझे पता है कितना बच रहा है अभी 21,000 बच रहा है, correct? So easily I can start 18,000 more SIP. Do you agree? Around 18,000 ka SIP I can start. So my total SIP, it has to be 20,000 rupees. So first my income comes and then my savings happen and then I spend whatever it is because I know I will not overspend because I have been in my limits. So it's the other way around. You fix your savings and then spend whatever it is because if you focus on expenses every month on month, it would be very difficult for you and you might not be able to do it for the entire year. So it's better to have a savings amount decided and then spend whatever it is because since you know that यार मोटा मोटी मैंने सही सही save किया यार. So easily I have 2,000 SIP running and I have 21,000 ka more scope. So I can easily start say 17, 18,000 SIP and I can spend rest of the money wherever I can.
Makes sense.
Well, most of the apps or whatever you use to also invest, they also do an auto debit. So the easiest is if you know that, okay, this much is what you want to invest or save, you simply set up an auto debit. The moment your salary comes, that money is already gone from your account, right? So that way you will never be transferring your saving money to your expenses because that would already be gone from your account.
Correct. Correct. Yes, Rushabh.
Yeah, I just wanted to add up one thing here, right? This is from personal, something that I did. I've been doing for the last couple of years. I basically divided my budget in terms of percentage instead of. I was not part of. I had left in between, so I do not know what exactly went on for discussion.
Sure.
I just put it as a percentage. say if I'm earning 100 rupees, 25% would go towards whatever expenses, the fixed expenses that I have. Calculate your fixed expenses, and out of the remaining, I will save this much percentage. So even if your income scales up, right,
Yeah.
you are aware as to how much percentage you want to save. So you can
Yes, yes.
scale up that amount faster.
Super.
Yeah.
I think, let's say if you're earning 80,000 rupees per month and your salary got increased to 1 lakh rupees, your saving percentage should remain same, 20%.
Yeah.
And your lifestyle expenses should also gradually increase, because क्या होगा ना, आपके basic expenses same रहेंगे. So you might have some bits to save more on your monthly savings, or you can increase your lifestyle a bit. But at least it should not decrease by the percentage you had earlier.
Yeah.
So 80,000 ka,
So basically, what usually happens is when a salary increment comes, people see that there's expandable cash in my account, and your lifestyle expenses shoot up at that point. But then
correct.
6 months, 8 months down the line, you realize, okay, my saving percentage has gone down or whatever. This
Yeah.
percentage has gone down. And that's
Correct.
when you realize that I have no savings.
Correct. Makes sense. And even I believe in percentage, Rishabh. So even I have, let's say, my percentage, minimum percentage that I need to save. Even if my salary increases by 30%, 40%, your percentage should remain the same. Good point.
Yeah.
Super. So yeah, so we'll quickly go to the next part of the segment. So we have assets and liabilities. So friends, what I'll request is, if you can quickly mention whatever assets that you have. So let's say if you have anything in your savings bank account, you can just mention 50,000. Your liquid funds is 50,000. Cash in hand is, let's say, 20,000. So you have assets in your hand. And if you have any fixed deposits, PPF, EPF, current value, आपकी company आपका PF अगर कट कर दिया तो वो कितना अमाउंट होगा टेंटेटिवली, डू यू हैव समथिंग इन माइंड? सो यहाँ पे लेट्स से यू हैव 1 लाख रुपीस, पीपीएफ में यू हैव सेव्ड 50,000, एनपीएस यू डोंट डू इट, इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी, surrender value, let's just skip it. So if you have mutual funds of 2 lakh rupees, direct equity of 1 lakh rupees, so your total assets are 3 lakh rupees, and you don't have any home as of now and primary things.
I think for
Real
those of
estate.
you who might not understand this or are right now not investing, you can stop at that last step also, right? Where we have tracked all the expenses and income, right? But yeah, if
Yes.
you're actively investing and you're aware of where you are investing, how much, then you can fill the remaining part of the sheet as well.
So this depend. I can see in personal asset the vehicle is there. So I mean, sir, I was
Yes.
into misconception maybe means vehicle come into the asset. Means I just want to know means
Yeah.
where
So
does
suppose if you have a car, 10 lakh ka
Mhm.
car hai, and you have been using it from last 4-5 years. So that is
Mhm.
your asset for sure. But it should come at a depreciated value यहाँ पे. So
हाँ,
अगर 10 लाख का कार है और आज अगर 4-5 साल हो गया, तो you should always mention 4 lakh, 5 lakh. जो भी आपको जब आप इंश्योरेंस ले जाते हो तो वो आईडी भी नहीं होता कुछ तो, where you get the I think I don't remember the full form, but whatever is the fair market value of that.
Mhm.
So let's say if you mention 4 lakh rupees.
Blue book value.
Huh.
Basically, it comes under asset because you are on the depreciating value, you're getting a tax benefit from the government.
So
from
basically
your income.
depreciating asset we can say directly.
Yeah, but a lot of times what happens is, as an individual, you cannot take benefit of that, while as a proprietor business or a private limited business, you are able to take benefit of that depreciating value.
Correct. Yeah. So this is about it. Assets may you can put in all the assets that you have very quickly. And liabilities may, let's say if you have any personal loan, vehicle loan or car loan going on, so you can always mention that. So suppose if I put vehicle loan में 1 lakh रुपए, and then you will get to know your assets and liabilities and your net worth. So your notional net worth is nothing but your personal assets, which you won't sell if anything happens, but still it's your net worth. So it's a notional net worth, but your real net worth can be considered 4,70,000 because हमने car include किया था 4 लाख रुपए का. So you can exclude car because you won't sell car like, for your any of the needs or goals. So you can always consider this as a notional net worth and 4,70,000 as your actual net worth. So these are some rough figures that we have seen, but I think many of you would have got clarity here on what is the surplus that you need for your new investments. And if you have been investing, then you would have got your net worth as well. So yeah, that was it, friends. Any more questions, or how did you like the tool? Was it a reality check for you? I can see that, few of you mentioned that it was a reality check, but hope you will take actions on that, and we'll see how you can take action on the next 3 weeks. So yeah, Sagar, over to you. I'm done with the session.
Lovely session, Dipin. Right? I think we're definitely a little over time, but if any of you have any more questions that you believe you could not cover or you were a little hesitant to ask of it, so on the app we have a goal called financial learning, right? So if you have any questions, any ideas, any thoughts, you can go ahead and put it there. As well as if you want to learn something that you believe you haven't seen in the upcoming session, you can put that there as well, and we'll try to go ahead and accommodate that. Okay. But yeah, guys, I think just when it comes to money, it's the idea is to be honest to ourselves. So maybe you can revisit it after some time, but try to put your expenses right. And I think, like Rishabh was saying, as Zipin was saying, right, this will tell you what is your current percentage, right? And guys, before we close for today, I just want to see. So, uh, how did you guys feel for the upcoming sessions? Do you think today was overwhelming? Do you believe it was right amount of information? Do you think we went too fast or it was the right space? So tell us, guys, we'll be able to accordingly accommodate in the coming sessions.
I
I
I'm
think
not
it
sure, but I
was
have a lot of questions for the next session.
We'll
Yeah,
take your
Rishabh, I have
questions and
kept
we'll
your
solve it
Some
question
of
as
together.
them
well.
Saurabh already knows.
Yes, yes, I have
मैं
kept
उसको
your
देख के
questions
गया था कि
separately.
पूछ लेना भाई.
I think the questions that were asked by people, I think that threw me off because I really do not have any idea about all these policies and stuff like that. So I think the question threw me off, but otherwise the session was amazing.
I
I'm
agree
waiting-
with
Thank
her.
you.
I'm waiting for the next one. I want to buy a term insurance. I couldn't decide it. Maybe you can help then.
Next week, Harinder.
Yes.
We'll talk more on that. Term insurances and Mediclaim is the topic for next week.
Yeah,
the
even
amount of
Practical tips, boss.
sorry.
yeah, go ahead,
Wait,
Shashank.
Shashank.
Go ahead.
The amount of information was perfect. That I think anything more than this will be overwhelming. Anything less than this could probably not do justice, I guess. So like
Okay.
that's a good job. You have figured out what needs to be included.
But I really hope that it added value to your financial life. मतलब वो नहीं हुआ तो फिर कहीं ना कहीं तो value add होना चाहिए.
Yeah.
I know that for some of you it might be a reality check, but it should add value because you have spent 1.5 hours and I think 30 of us. So cumulatively you have spent 50 hours, 30 into 1.5. So it should add value to your financial life. And hope you will implement whatever you have learned
So
today.
basically, it's inspired me to modify the spreadsheet and do a better job of tracking my finances.
Cool. That was the agenda. That was the expectation.
Yeah, Rishabh, want to say something?
Yeah, I know this is towards the end of the session, but I just had one quick question. This is something that I have been wondering for a while. For the okay, what are your thoughts on auto sweeping feature that's been being promoted off lately by all the banks? I don't know, probably if everyone will have an idea.
What feature?
It's a liquid FD. Basically, the banks are
Yeah, I use it.
talking about.
Yep.
Basically, you can move your fund into an higher interest
A
account,
particular amount.
but still act as a savings account. You can withdraw at any point of time, whatever you want, right? So
That one,
I think if anyone
even
has
Actually,
used
Rishabh,
it,
yeah.
I would say, Rishabh, it depends upon what do you want to use it for.
no.
Right.
So I was just talking for okay. So why I'm asking this question is for all the people who still have money in the savings account, right?
Right.
and are still trying to figure out where to invest, how to invest, if they can get a slightly higher return than a savings account,
Yeah.
because I'm
I
trying to
think,
figure out what's the exact percentage it works out to.
see, if you have healthy habits, right? Because like Dipin mentioned it, 80% behavioral, right? So if you are somebody who keeps a lot of money in the savings account because of certain reason, and you have that control that even though you have money in the bank account, but you will not spend it unnecessarily, then it's a good idea to set up auto sweeping. If you believe you do not have that control, then it's better idea to move it to a different account or move it to an actual FD where you are
Okay,
away from
I
that
get
money,
that part.
right?
I get that part. So I have a lot of couple of things set up. Hello.
Yeah, yeah.
The whole idea is if this can get you a 2% higher interest
Mm.
without you thinking about it.
Yeah.
Without you
So why
thinking
not?
about it.
But it's giving you 2% higher on the savings account, right? That same interest
Yeah.
is also available to you in FD or other instruments, right? Without
FD
any
locks
risk.
you in. See, FD locks your funds in. This
Auto.
doesn't. This is a new thing. See, it probably was an old thing, but they are now promoting it again as an auto sweeping.
Correct,
No,
correct, correct.
what I
I
think
was
is
thinking from a point of view where I wanted to opt in for it, right? So I was just trying to work out what's the catch here and
Let
what's the
me
actual return they are
I,
giving.
I use myself. So
Yeah.
auto sweep, see, my funds go to auto sweep FD. It gives me 6.8% return. And if
Okay.
it's a saving account, it gives you only 2.5% return. So that's the big margin there. First thing. Then second thing, like the habitual, like behavior habit, how much you spend, right? You set a limit. Like I set a limit around like 35,000. 35,000 will be in my liquid. I can draw them anytime, anything. If anything goes up above 35,000, it will automatically move to my FD and it will give me start that 6.8% return. So I don't have to worry about that. So
So Sagar,
similarly,
the
like I have
idea
two
is
accounts.
these are just basic things where you just need to tell your banker
Yeah.
that do this and automatically it happens. You don't need to think about it while you actually figure out where you want to invest. Like
Yeah,
savings
but
में
let's say
2.5% या 3% मिल रहा है. If you're getting even slightly higher, healthy habit or bad habit, whatever expenditure habits you have, doesn't matter. It's just a smaller tip that I was trying to understand. Can it
no,
help?
but the point is, if let's say that's the point, right? Like Harinder has set up the 35 limit, right? And anything over them is getting auto sweep. But if you're
Oh,
expending that money, you will not get that return.
so
No, no,
he
no,
is
no.
auto sweeping into a
You can
fixed
withdraw.
FD.
You can withdraw. FD is without.
Exactly. But when you will withdraw, you will not get the return.
No, you
No,
will
you
get
get
for how
you get
many ever
You will
days
get the
it's
return
there.
for that period for which it got
Yeah,
auto swept, right?
yeah.
So that's what I'm
So
saying, right? If your goal is to actually save that money, right? You put it somewhere where you're not taking it out,
yeah,
right?
so this actually for me, since I have slightly higher funds in my account, it
I
makes
think
more sense. But for a lot of others, if they set it up now as just a basic thing, right, without any limit like Harinder did, without any limit, as they scale, their income scale up, this could this be beneficial, or is
no,
there anything? I'm
Rishabh,
trying to
yeah,
understand
Rishabh,
that, and I'm not
for
getting a proper
normal,
answer
yeah,
from
no,
anyone.
for normal IT employee like me and all. So why I keep
Hmm.
my what all money I keep in my saving account, my emergency fund,
Hmm.
right? My
Hmm.
expenses that I will be going for this month, and some more amount for just for a secure year, right? So apart from that, most of them goes to the stock market, SIP or mutual fund or something there.
Hmm.
So I keep only what I need in my saving account. In that, for
But
sure.
Saurabh, you have figured out your investment to a certain extent, right? A lot of
Correct.
people haven't. So this is just basic, this thing.
Yeah, but I think the goal is to
Also,
do it, Rishabh, right? The goal is to
yeah,
go ahead and do it because the return that you're getting 6-7%, you do not need strong analytical skills to get that return. You do not need to invest that money in stock market.
Correct,
You still
correct.
have
yeah,
easy instruments to be able to make that level of return. But I completely get your point. I completely get your point,
yeah.
Rishabh. I think in interest of time, considering
Yeah,
we're at
yeah. That's
almost
why.
I'll add one more point
11:20,
Take
on
this
this.
up.
right? Yeah.
So basically, if you have something in your like account like 2 or 3 lakh, yeah, you are not putting it into FD. right? You might know when you need it and you're gonna use regularly. I think auto sweep can be a good thing because because you don't know, you might be you might not need that money for like 3 to 4 months, right? So it can give you a good return.
Correct.
So that's how it works. If you have like only like 50,000, 60,000, 1 lakh, and you're gonna keep using it, I mean, auto sweep or not, it doesn't gonna like
Doesn't make
make much
sense.
difference. That's it.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. Yes. So anyone, any questions, or are we good? Sagar, it's 11:15. So hope we'll complete by 10:45, 10:50 by from next week, because since this was the first week, it took a little bit of more time.
I think pull it to 9 next week. Start from 9.
We'll see. I think we're good
If
with
possible,
9:30,
if feasible.
right? I think, yeah, that works for most people because 9 is a little bit clashes with dinner
Dinner
time,
time. Yeah.
right? For a lot of us. But I think today we spent a lot of time in introductions and context setting.
Yeah.
I think next time we can get started right from the go, right? So we'll have some time. But
Super.
yeah, I think these kind of discussions is the output that we're trying to generate is kind of having these discussions that we just were having, right? I think the more we'll talk, the more we'll figure it out. So we can
Yes.
carry on these discussions throughout the week. We do not have to wait for this session to come for us to come back with questions, right? So on that financial goal, feel free to share any question, ask any questions. All of us can share our thoughts, and wherever we are stuck, we'll ask Dipin to go ahead and clarify
Sure.
whatever is needed. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But I think once again, thank you so much, Dipin, right?
Most welcome.
For putting
Can
this
we
together
hire
for all
you
of us.
as our personal finance advisor?
Sorry.
Can we hire you as our
It's too costly, man, I think.
Really, but for
I
sure,
think,
I won't.
yeah,
Please.
those of you who don't know, Dipin is planning something. He's planning his own side hustle. He's planning his own startup. So we will get a chance to use some of his services there.
But first, let me create some value for you all. And if you are independent enough, you can always go ahead with yourself and start with your investing journey as well. But hope you all like the session. And next 3 weeks would be very interesting. I think we have built a good foundation today. And next 3 weeks would be very interesting. So we have a lot of questions on insurances and financial goals as well. And we have the session on risk profile. So I am personally excited. And Saga, let me tell you, I was like seriously amazed seeing 35 people attending the session. I was personally expecting 20-25 but we had a great audience today. And thanks to everyone who have stayed back till late. I think we had 30 people till we started with the Excel, but great audience turnout. Super.
Absolutely. And I think Dipin, probably before the next session, we'll have a short catch up on auto sweep also. Both of us can check and maybe we can give a better answer.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
And share
Done,
better
boss.
give my
information
own
around that.
inputs.
Done.
I'll share my inputs. I'm researching right now.
Yeah. Sure.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Actually,
Thanks
guys,
a lot,
I'll
Dipin. Yes.
just I'll
Yeah,
just send out the link for the financial goal in HQ, and maybe we can continue our discussions there. Because I'm also interested in this.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I think if you want to go over any part again, we'll also be sharing the recording and everything with you guys tomorrow. So feel free to go over it if you need be. And have a good night. I hope everybody has had food or is close to the bed. So we can go from there. And thank you guys. Thanks once again.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thanks a
Thanks,
all.
lot,
everyone.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you,
Dipin.
everyone. Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you,
Good night.
everyone.
Thanks for the session.
Bye bye.
So you can stop recording.
Yeah.